Hey there crafters, it's Louise with you today. Welcome to my channel. I hope that you have already hit that little subscribe button so that you can see future videos from me. I am currently working in my 2022 art journal. It's something that's sort of been let slide and I'm determined to get my 2022 finished before I start on my 2023. So I'm working my way through this and I'm going to share this layout with you today. Now I am starting with some acrylic paint in the shimmer colors, which is the Dilutions, and also just whatever I had in my stash, which is that silver. I'm using just a little spritz of water to help it spread the color, and then I'm using my brayer just to create that colored background. Now I have this problem when I start to create in my art journal. Quite often the first layer that I create, in this case that really great green shimmery background, is often my favorite, and I don't want to cover it up. But art journaling is a process all about creating layers and areas of interest until you feel that your art has spoken to you. So I'm going to continue on with this page nextly by adding some white gesso through this stencil. I'm trying not to cover up much of that green background because I do sort of like it, but I don't have a great plan in mind for this. And you'll have noticed by the title already that we're calling this art journal page the Epic Black Gesso Fail, because I'm going to have a huge problem with black gesso in a little while, but we'll get to that shortly. And I wanted to share this epic fail with you because I think, you know, looking at YouTube, you're seeing the most beautiful art projects and it can get a little bit disheartening. And I want you to know that I wouldn't call myself an experienced artist, but I've been doing this for over 15 years, developing my craft, mainly scrapbooking, and even I don't get it right all the time. You know, some of my artistic entries into this art journal are complete rubbish, and I look back on them and think, what were you doing at that particular time? And then other times I look at some of my creations and I go, wow, what were you doing that particular time in your life? Because that's an amazing creation. So I wanted to share the epic fail with you because it happens. It's real life, and I want you to know that you don't have to create perfectly all the time. It's about the process and enjoying the process. And in this case, yeah, I didn't really enjoy the epic black gesso fail, but I did learn a very important lesson from it. So you can see that I have added some crayon around the outside and just smudged it with a little bit of water to add some texture. I'm going to stamp with my little circle stamp in white, just because I've got some white splatters in there. I did go a little bit over with the stamping. I really didn't need that much, but yeah, it's done now. Now it's at this point that I actually really like the background. So off camera, I actually give it a clear spray with sealant. And this is essentially what saves the page, sort of, in that the next step is I wanted to add some black areas of interest. And I saw this little tip where a crafter uses a roller that's already sealed in black paint and they don't have to get their black out all the time. Now this just did not work for me, whether it was I had too much paint or the stencil. I then tried to salvage it with a baby wipe and all it does is just smears black paint everywhere. And I hate it. I think it looks terrible. I had far too much paint. It just did not look right. I covered up most of the prettiness in the background, but because I had sprayed it with a clear sealant, I managed to actually wipe off quite a bit of that black gesso. You can still see it has a tiny little tinge of darkness, like it doesn't have that light sort of color and the shimmery brightness that it had initially, but it's salvageable, and I'm going to continue on with it. Again, I'm still not loving where it went from here, but I'm trying to make layers. I'm trying to turn this into some kind of respectable entry in my art journal that I can hopefully just close the book and move on to the next page. And one of my next videos is going to be the alternate page, and that's actually something that I'm really proud of that I think came up quite nicely. So yeah, some days you're good, some days you're bad, some days you learn, and some days what you create is just complete rubbish. But I'm sharing it here, so I hope that you're inspired to at least give it a go, because your art doesn't have to be perfect. It's just about creating. even still, my white gesso here, I'm not loving the way it looks in the background. It's really not the right color. At this point, I've almost given up on this page. I pull out some stickers and some die cuts and think, man, I just really need to get something onto this. I've agonized over it for probably 3 nights. The first night, you know, I'd made that pretty green background, sprayed it with sealant, left it, came back, completely epically failed with the black gesso. Wiped it all off, put it aside, came back to it, had another go at it. Again, I'm stenciling leaves in green, trying to tie in the background, trying to tie in these florals that go over the top. It's not my favorite art piece that I've ever created, but you know what? It is in there and it is done. So I'm going to call this finished. Thank you for watching. I hope that you've stuck with me the whole